Hello, I'm Rob Dill with DocWire News, and we're joined today by Dr. Brian Jonas, Associate Professor in the Division of Hematology and Oncology at UC Davis School of Medicine and UC Davis Comprehensive Cancer Center. Today, we'll be discussing the recent FDA approval of Venclexta in combination for the treatment of newly diagnosed leukemia in older adults with comorbidities. Dr. Jonas, thank you very much for joining us today.
And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk with you today and share some insights about these exciting news.
Okay, very good. Can you talk to us a little bit about Venclexta to start?
Yeah, of course. So it's a BCL2 inhibitor. It's an oral drug, a potent inhibitor of that protein. It's been developed for use in multiple malignancies. Of course, it's approved by the FDA in AML now, as well as in CLL. And so at least in AML, the leukemia stem cells and the leukemia cells in general use BCL2 as a way to prevent cell death. And so when they're treated with other drugs or chemotherapy, sometimes they're able to be resistant to those drugs because of the inhibition of apoptosis, which is a cell death pathway. And so this drug actually, certainly when it's combined with chemotherapy, especially like azacitidine, as was in the case with the VALIER study, it synergizes and activates these cell death pathways, which lead to killing of the leukemia cells, which really is how it's active.
And as far as safety and efficacy, how was the safety and efficacy of this treatment assessed?
Yeah, so initially it was looked at in a phase 1 study, and that kind of explored multiple dose levels of venetoclax in combination with hypomethylating agents. There was another phase 1 study that looked at low-dose cytarabine in combination with venetoclax. And so they were first tested for safety in those early studies, and they escalated the dose to kind of see what doses were able to be reached without any significant toxicities. And then with that information in mind, the phase 3 study, the VALIER study, and with azacitidine, there's a VALIER-C study with cytarabine. These were launched to then prove kind of the efficacy question. Since in the phase 1 studies, the doses were established, the safety was established, and there was some really encouraging preliminary efficacy signal. And so these were then confirmed in the phase 3 study, especially in the VALIER study, and then also in those studies, they continued to monitor safety signals to see whether or not they were consistent with what we saw in the phase 1 studies as well. So, and ultimately, in terms of the VALIER study, for example, the overall survival endpoint was positive and was met, and the safety seemed consistent with the previous reports.
Are there any side effects to a report in this therapy?
Yeah, there is, and I think a lot of us are getting used to kind of how to manage it. I've written a paper about that, for example, with a great friend and colleague at University of Colorado, Dan Pollier. Some of the main side effects you look at in this combination are decreased blood counts or cytopenias, and so we have to manage those. And there's a number of interventions that can be done to do so. Like dose delays or dose interruptions, dose modifications, and so on. So that's kind of the biggest thing we see. There are some, I would say, minor gastrointestinal side effects. Some people will get nausea, some people will get some other low-grade GI side effects, diarrhea, and so on. And so we saw that on the confirmed in the phase 3 study. And then related to the cytopenias, there are sometimes infections that can develop, like pneumonia and so on. And so clinicians need to be on the lookout for those side effects, which are manageable, of course, and in some cases, I think even potentially preventable with some of the dose modifications that I alluded to before.
Okay, thank you. And what impact does this FDA approval have on the study population with AML?
Yeah, I think it's personally, I think this is a huge advance in the field where we didn't have a lot of options to give to patients, especially these older patients. The indicated population is 75 or older, or patients who are younger with certain key comorbidities like heart disease, kidney disease, liver disease, and so on. And so these patients traditionally have not been patients where we could offer intense chemotherapy to. And so in the past, and actually some of the population studies even show that many patients were getting no treatment at all. In some cases, they were being treated or just supportive care or even going onto palliative care straight off the bat. And so, and then we had some off-label drugs like azacitidine or decitabine that people would use, or low-dose cytarabine, with some efficacy. But then this comes along, and as we've shown in the Valier study, was superior to azacitidine. So now we have an option, I think, that is feasible and effective in this population where no such option existed before. And so I think that is, quite exciting news. And I think the whole field has kind of taken on that as something with a great deal of enthusiasm.
And Dr. Jonas, do you have anything else to add as far as closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think again, we have this effective therapy where none existed before. And I think now we're kind of learning, how to use it. We're learning how to make it better with new clinical trials that are in development. I think that's always an important thing to think about. How do we make this better now, right? I mean, that's always the next step. And so those are being investigated in many different clinical trials to try to either isolate subsets that might benefit from addition of another drug or some other combination, or maybe there's a way to change the way the treatment is given to make it easier. There's a number of different approaches that can be considered in this situation. I think all of which will come back to improve our treatment of these older patients. I think another important thing is to think about the community docs. I'm here in an academic center where I see a ton of this disease, and I've treated lots of people on this regimen and have acquired a lot of experience. And those in my institution is the same, or those at other academic centers the same. So we really need to support our community physician colleagues who maybe see fewer cases of AML, and make sure that they're able to, effectively use this regimen if they're comfortable with it, or at least to make them comfortable to offer it, and to manage it, I think, rationally. So, I think myself, and I'm sure this is a common theme throughout the academic world, is we have a lot of really trusted partners in the community, and we work with them, we consult with them, we co-manage patients with them, and we help people to give this regimen, and others that are challenging. So I think increased awareness in the community of the regimen, its complications, like we discussed today, and its benefits, I think it's going to benefit the whole AML population in general in the long run.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Jones. We really appreciate your time today, sir.
Of course. Yeah, happy to talk.
All right, I'm Rob Diller with DocWire News. Until next time, everybody, stay safe.
Thank you.